Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Big news this afternoon in the Champions League. The BBC have confirmed a verbal agreement between Manchester United and Lisandro Martinez over his terms. A big step forward for Man United, who are fighting hard against Arsenal for the signature of this brilliant defender. On the show, we're going to delve into the Ronaldo disgrace that's ensued, the public fighting now between the club, his agent, and fans alike over his pending exit. Chelsea closing in on their first summer signing. Raheem Sterling, Nathan Ake, hot on the towels. Of course, the lit updates for you as well. Man United, of course, completed the signing today of Malacia, and it's a formality now for Eriksen. He will be a Manchester United player. And we've got a few debates for you as well. Is style of play overrated? And why is there so much pressure on Man United and Arsenal fans to put huge expectations upon their club next season, as it were? I'm joined, of course, on my weekly episode with Jessica Black. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, you don't sound good. A bit under the weather. You got a little cold.
Yeah.
But look at you soldiering on. Glad that you're here. Glad you're back. And I had a little bit of a break over the weekend. Someone here says Ronaldo disgrace. Guys, ignore this. Terry loves Ronaldo and said is that sadness. You don't even know what I'm going to say yet. So wait till we get to the point before you start judging it, Luis Garcia. I really would wish that they could do that on YouTube, where you could stop comments about certain subjects until you got to those subjects, because you don't know what I'm going to say yet, my friend. I don't know what we're even going to say. But in fact, we can start off with it, as it's one of the first things that's kind of been brought up. Obviously, I know you were away over the weekend. You had a little bit of a time out and a break from everything. Of course, the Ronaldo news broke. The Ronaldo news came out, and it's very much he wants to leave. His agent's been talking to Chelsea. It's about Champions League football. No ambition, he's saying, in the market. Some Man United fans are outraged with him and they're turning on him. Others, they're turning on the Glazers, which they absolutely should be. What do you make of this situation with Ronaldo wanting to leave? Is it the end of the world for Manchester United?
I mean, it's excuse me. Sorry, you guys. It's a disruption you guys don't need. But is it the end of the world? Probably not. I don't know. I think maybe he came to Manchester United and figured, they finished second the year prior, so they're definitely challenging. If you look at the team on paper, if he's just looking at the team, he's thinking, oh, you add me in there and we're right up there. I don't think he could have anticipated what Manchester United would have went through last season. I don't think many Manchester United fans could have predicted it, to be honest. So, he only has a couple of years left at the top. And so he wants to play Champions League. And maybe the players that you guys are being linked to aren't necessarily the level that he sorry, you guys, that he feels like is good enough. So I don't really think it's the end of the world. I just think it's a disruption that you don't really want during your transfer window. Like, I don't think anybody really anticipated maybe having to replace Ronaldo. The only way that it becomes an issue in my mind, which, you have to think about it, is who's there, because if you let go of Ronaldo, you have to have a replacement. Haaland is gone. Nunez is gone. Jesus is gone. Richarlison is gone. Who's left? Who's left that you can rely upon that's going to be good enough, to lead the line for Manchester United? Who's out there that Ten Hag wants? Because he's been very specific about the players that he wants. So I think that's where it becomes a little bit of an issue. But is it the end of the world? No. I mean, you can make an argument that without him last season, you guys would have been somewhere in mid-table. I don't necessarily feel like that's true, but you can make an argument. But I also think his inclusion, or him coming back to the club, was somewhat of a disruption. I think there were some elements to him being there that didn't necessarily help what was going on at Manchester United. I think he disrupted the harmony. That's just me looking from the outside. So I think if Manchester United play it right, it could go well for them. But it's just a matter of, like, who are you going to get to replace him? I think that's the most important thing. For you, do you think, like, this would be the end of the world? Or I know you're a huge, obviously, Ronaldo person. You backed him a lot. I mean, I'm sure you don't like the way that he's doing it, but ultimately, if he left, would you feel devastated by it?
Not a 37. I love everything Ronaldo has done for Man United, and I agree with. I see so many takes on this, and this is why I say it's becoming a bit of a disgrace. I don't necessarily think Ronaldo's done anything wrong. I do not blame, and I've said this for years, and the alumni of the Terrace know this. I don't think players should be any more loyal than the clubs are to them. Because if, for instance, a month ago, Haaland said, I don't want to go City, I fancy Man United. Man United would have dropped Ronaldo at his age like a bad habit. So why in God's green earth should Ronaldo not drop Man United if he doesn't want to be there anymore? Football fans have got to have the same energy for the players that want to leave as they have for the players they want to go. Man United fans don't care about how much hard work players they don't rate. I don't care how much McTominay wants to be here. I don't. Let's get rid of him now. So we have to have the same energy. The only thing that's a worry about this is he did try and raise the standards last year. And I think that some players, I'm hearing this nonsense about some players will feel sort of a sense of freedom if Ronaldo leaves. Well, I hope they don't. I hope that the new manager puts that same level of pressure upon them. And that's one part of the report that's missing out with people that are attacking Ronaldo and calling him a disgrace is he spoke with Ten Hag and really likes what Ten Hag has got to offer. He thinks he's the right person to take the club forward. But Ronaldo isn't right for a rebuild in the sense of Ronaldo isn't going to be here past year one, and this is more than a one-year project. So we can't build anything around Ronaldo because he won't be here. So him leaving now, yes, is a bump in the road. It's a snag. But it's as if people expected there to be no bumps in the roads or snags at the beginning of this process as we try to fix, because we might not get there, all the problems the Glazers and Woodward and Matt Judge created over the past 9 years. The bit that's annoying me is when you read like people's tweets, I get elements, but it's so polarized. It's so binary and it's such basic thought every single time. It's a case of, look at the Glazers have done. They've destroyed the football club. Ronaldo doesn't want to be here now, and he might go to a rival. And I'm like, I kind of get that train of thought, but equally, you're not thinking bigger picture here. If there's a good replacement we can get, or we might not replace Ronaldo up front this year. We could use the money we save from him leaving, which isn't going to be £500,000 a week. His salary is actually going to reduce to 360 because there's no Champions League. Save that money, and maybe that goes towards buying another midfield player or strengthening a right back that we really need, and we improve. We were never ending this summer with every element of the football pitch ready. We're still an outside favourite to make the top four. That doesn't change with or without Ronaldo. So I don't want to see him go to Chelsea. And I tweeted this earlier and I stand by it. I just said, what I want is for Man United right now to make a fast and ruthless decision. Let him leave, but only if he moves abroad and not to a Premier League side. And also, that's providing we can find a replacement in a particular position. Let him know that now. Set a deadline. If we can't get a replacement or you can't find a club in the next 4 weeks outside the Prem, we're just going to let you run down your contract and play you. But we need to be ruthless about it. And then if he starts misbehaving or doesn't want to comply with the tactics, then I want us to be even more ruthless. But we won't. It won't go this far. Ronaldo will work. But sit the geezer on the bench, sit him in the stands. We need to start putting the club before any player. Whether it's Ronaldo, whether he's right or wrong to want to leave, the outcome has to be what's best for Man United, not him. And I think as long as we do that, I'm so relaxed about this situation. I see such panic and such anguish from people. They're acting as if we're about to go into a title challenging season and we're about to lose our main striker who we're expecting to score us goals for the next 7, 8, 9 years. It's like if you lost Saka like now, going into the season you're expecting to have, that would be a reason to be pissed off. But losing a player that's leaving in a year's time anyway and probably retiring from European football, I don't get the outrage. Do you get where I'm coming from?
But you're also losing somebody who scored like the majority of your goals last season. So even if he wasn't going to stay, I think the club were counting on him. I think those are the reports that I read, that they were counting on him to be there. Can't rely upon Martial, can you? So even if he's not a 7, 8 year plan guy, can you at least understand that like he was going to be a major figure in the team, at least in the short term? Because you guys didn't really go after Nunez after Liverpool got really involved with him. You guys haven't looked at another striker. So for me, that signifies that the club were relying upon Cristiano Ronaldo.
We most certainly were relying on him. There's absolutely no cap in that at all. But as I say, there are goals still in this team. We scored more goals as a club the season before Ronaldo joined than the season prior. And do I think that we're suddenly those 18 Premier League goals are not going to be without Ronaldo? I'll put a guarantee out there now. Without Ronaldo, with Ten Hag, we score more goals in the Premier League next season by 15 to 20 goals. With or without him, we score more goals. I don't think this kind of. I understand people make the point of without Ronaldo's goals last year, United would have been 15th. Without this goalie making these saves, this would have happened. If Alisson, look at the one-on-one saves Alisson made last season for Liverpool. If you remove Alisson's brilliant saving ratio and you remove 50% of Mo Salah's goals, they weren't in a title race, but they were. And it just is what it is. But Liverpool aren't going to fall off just because next season Mo Salah scores a few less goals. They'll find another way. Football's quite fluid like that. And that's what I mean. I get everything you're saying. I want to see us replace him. And as I've said it a few times already, if we just let him go and we don't reinvest that money, I'll be annoyed at the football club. But equally, I don't want to cheat the process. So the reason we moved away from trying to sign a number 9 after no Darwin is because there were no other targets that Ten Hag's looking at that he thinks are of the right level and that are available right now to buy. So I'd rather invest the money in his number 1 right back target that's available now that suddenly we've got the money for because Ronaldo's left. Did you get where I'm coming from? I'd rather buy who we want and need and have some holes in other areas until we're ready to fix them than do what we've done before and panic, fill a hole with a player who's now on big money that we can't get rid of, who becomes a problem at the club. I want us to go about things different to the way we've failed in the last 9 years. That's just kind of how I feel about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of understand that. I get that that's, how you feel. I do understand why people would be kind of upset and worried as well, because you have a lot of confidence in what Ten Hag is doing, but you haven't seen him coach at all, for Manchester United. You haven't seen them play a game, so we'll definitely see how this works out. You definitely have to find a buyer. And what if the only prospective buyer is Chelsea, and the club were to sell him to Chelsea? How would you feel about that? Because you don't want it to happen, but if that's the only prospective
Yeah.
buyer, because we all know that overseas they don't have, or not overseas, but in the other leagues, they don't have as much money.
It would hurt me seeing him in a Chelsea kit. It would hurt me even more if he scored against us. But again, I think he'd do 1 year. It's never. I'll use the same energy, and I did this with Arsenal. It shows my consistency. Letting Aubameyang go wasn't the problem. It was not replacing him. And that would be my situation. Letting Ronaldo go does not damage Man United as long as he is replaced in one way, shape, or form. And I think that we need to listen. I think what Goldbridge has been on the attack of the Glazers. This is their fault. Of course it is. But everything wrong with the club is their fault. Any problems that we have right now are what I call legacy issues. And of course, there's going to be legacy issues after a decade of running the club like absolute dog poo. And I just think that fans have got to realize that we're not going to we aren't where we want to be. So keeping hold of players like Ronaldo, signing the best players in the world is a lot harder, and it's going to take time to get there. We are in the mud as a general rule. And it's not even about having massive faith in what Ten Hag is doing. We are going about things differently to normal at this moment in time. We're letting football people do transfer negotiations. We've done that in a decade. I'm not saying it's going to work 100%. I'm just willing to sit back and see what happens before I start throwing my toys out my pram again. And if it fails, then I'll address it. But we are going about things differently. And the fact I've seen change means I'm going to give... I was trying to explain this the other day to people. I can't blame the new regime for mistakes people before they're made. It doesn't make sense. I'm not going to put additional pressure on them. I'm not going to put more pressure on Ten Hag because Ollie failed. I'm not going to have a go at Ten Hag for mistakes Jose made. Life don't work like that. It'd be weird. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of strange. That's just not how I operate. But I get everyone thinks about it differently. Super chat here, a couple here. One's a member chat, sorry, from Dan, who says, Terry, You cruel man, you need to start paying sick pay. Jess clearly is ill. Can't believe you dragged her on. P.S. Jess, I hope you get better. Jess has got a choice. Thanks, Dan. One of the deals, though, that's circulating today that I wanted to get your views on is there's a report from Fraz Fletcher, who's a reporter, freelance reporter, predominantly works for the BBC. This individual, Fraser Fletcher, has put out some information this afternoon that Manchester United have come to a verbal agreement with Lisandro Martinez, kind of coupled with what Charles Watts has stated, that both clubs are still involved, but it is felt from both the Arsenal and Man United side of things that they have a advantage. Is this one of these deals now where you almost just want to see, because neither club have had a bid accepted by Ajax? Are you a bit like me right now, where I'm just getting to a point with this transfer where I'm like, just someone put a bid in that's acceptable so the player can make a full and final decision so we can kind of move on from it now? Because I'm getting a little bit, okay, we know he likes both clubs. We know he might favour Man United because of Ten Hag. Both clubs are a few million away from the asking price. Just reach the damn asking price so the player can decide 100% where he's going to go. I don't know about you. It's just sort of been sitting there now. And I want both Man United and Arsenal to act so we can just get to the end result,
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, I don't know. I feel like Ajax are in control of this. They keep kind of moving it a little bit further away, because they don't want to sell him, and they want to sell him for as much as possible. Two clubs involved that clearly have the money. So, yeah. And it looks like they just bought Bergwijn as well. So they're going to want to recoup some of this cash. They're going to want a lot. So I think it's just a part of the game. And both clubs seem very interested. I would imagine that, Lisandro Martinez's agent is loving this as well, because he's like, just keep pushing it, let's see how far we can go. And both clubs really like him. So, yeah, I think that for Ajax, this is great. For Lisandro Martinez, this is great. But for both fan bases, it's kind of just like, okay, let's just get it over with. I think the feeling amongst a lot of Arsenal fans is that this one will probably go in the direction of Manchester United because, the connection with Ten Hag. I, kind of put out a tweet saying like, we'll see how, close those bonds really are. And it looks like it might go in that direction, which I think, is a little bit disappointing if it were to go that way. But at the same time, very similarly to Jesus, it's something that we had the advantage of in that negotiation. You guys have the advantage in this one. And that's just kind of how it works. What our alternatives would be is more my concern now, because Lisandro is such a good player. And now I'm like, okay, who's just as versatile that can play those multiple positions and do that stuff? And he's a special player. So I'm not really sure that there's anybody else out there like it. So yeah, I am a little bit like, I just want to get it over with so we can go on to alternatives. But I mean, Ajax are going to milk this because they have been very clear from the beginning that they don't want to sell this player. And so I think Manchester United and Arsenal just have to play the game.
You are right in that regard. And this is where sometimes I need to hold myself back from being frustrated and realize also United and Arsenal are trying to get the best price possible. And £5 million saved on a transfer, it may not seem a lot in the grand scheme of things. It will add up, if that makes sense. You're saving £5 million on every deal. I do agree with you. I think Man United do have the upper hand in this and everything else. I'm kind of intrigued to see what the team that misses out goes for. There's talk about you guys wanting him as a left back. I've said for days now, it still doesn't make sense when you look, and I just did research into him and broke down, went on Y Scout, and I've been looking at his last couple of years. He has barely kicked the ball at left back. So it's kind of like, my view is, I don't see that Arsenal have scouted him for left back. And what I mean by that is I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans have kind of come on and gone, we'll use him at left back. I don't know when you scouted him at left back because he ain't played there for a long time. I do see him being a centre back for both clubs. So I'm very intrigued to know.
That's the same thing they said about Tomiyasu, by the way. I do think when people think left back, they think, he's going to bomb forward and overlap and those types of things. I think Arteta's moving towards inverted fullbacks, and they play just like center backs.
But
You
that could be
know, I
true.
don't
Yeah,
think
that
we're,
could be true.
you
Yeah.
know, so I think when people think left back, they think that traditional left back running up. And it's the same thing people said. We don't know what Tomiyasu is. We have no clue what position he plays. He played fullback for us, and it looked like it made a lot of sense. So, you know, I do think Arsenal scout pretty well. You know, I don't think we bring in players and don't know what positions they can play.
That isn't really what I was suggesting. I mean, you've just kind of alluded to my point. He isn't going to be used in a traditional left back role like people are talking about. And I think that if it's interesting, you mentioned that about Tomiyasu because and maybe using different types of fullbacks. I've been saying this for years. At some point in football, in the next couple of years, the role of fullbacks will change again predominantly. We're about to see the two best teams in England go away from a fluid front three to start using traditional number nines. This will eventually happen with the fullbacks where they'll be more defensive again. And that's when the defensive attributes of a defender will come more to the forefront than their attacking attributes. And this is the natural cycle of football and it goes on. And the only people that don't notice this are the new generation of football fans talking about it because they just haven't experienced the changes yet, you know, and people our age have seen it happen 3 or 4 times. People our parents' age might have seen it happen 5 or 6 times now. So I'm intrigued to know where he'll play, but equally, what Man United or Arsenal do should the deal not go through. And I kind of say that because I feel like, I don't know about you, Man United and Arsenal seem to be having a hell of a lot of pressure placed upon them by rival fans who at the same time don't think we're very good. I'm very confused by this. And I'd love to get the viewers' take on this. And remember, people, if we hit 1,200 likes while we're live today, I will gift 20 free memberships out to 20 of you watching live. I've already gifted 50 memberships out this month. I will gift another 20 on the show, but we need 1,250 likes. It's very easy. There's more than that watching now, almost double that watching now. So get smashing that like button and we will gift out those free memberships. But I kind of feel like it's a question that I want to pose in the right way. Why are so many rivals desperate for Man United fans and Arsenal fans to get overexcited and get ahead of themselves and start predicting title charges and winning major trophies and, you know, saying we're back? Why do you think there is this obsession at the moment with it?
I mean, I just think, you know, Arsenal and Manchester United have been in the mud for so long and people have gotten really used to it. And that's just, you know, we've been ran terribly and people love it. But I think honestly, like the way that Manchester United have done business in this window, I think has been really good. Um, Frankie de Jong is a quality player, and I think it'll get over the line at some point. Like, I'm not that type of person. Like, if I think something is good, I'm going to say it regardless, you know, if I don't like the team or whatever. I think Manchester United are doing good business, and they're making good decisions, which people don't want to see. Maybe it's my bias, but I do think Arsenal are doing good business. I think over the last 2 summers, we've done decent business. And so I think what rivals want you to do is say you're going to win the league and then they want to banter you after when you don't get it. But ultimately, I think they also want to put pressure because they see that our teams are doing better. Um, you know, especially in the transfer market. So, I think it's just a little bit of that. You know, I kinda did it to you last summer. I tried to get you to say that you guys were gonna win the league, just
Yeah.
so because I knew you guys wouldn't, and I wanted to see the banter part. But yeah, I think it's just a little bit of that. You know, a good Manchester United and a good Arsenal is not good, you know, for Chelsea, Liverpool, you know, whatever. So, yeah, and I'm not saying that we're going to do those things, but I think both clubs are making the right steps to get back to a place where at least we could compete, because we're not being as stupid as we were before in the market. You know, you can't really look at what both teams are doing and looking at it and saying it's not good. You really can't. If you are, you're lying. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, don't you think that? Do you see it that way? Do you think that Arsenal and Manchester United are moving differently in the transfer market, or you think I'm just saying whatever? You know, because I think it looks different, but
Gal kind of
maybe
called
it's
me
my
out the other.
bias.
Gal kind of called me out the other day when I said, because I said to him, "Oh, you know, I'm doing. I praise. I've been praising Arsenal," and he goes, "Only when you do Arsenal shows." And I'm sort of like, of course, I'll banter Arsenal at times. But I've said all summer, Arsenal are moving very well in this market. You know, the way they went in for Rafinha, tried to get it done before anybody else, felt that it was failing, stepped away, moved on to Lisandro. They haven't pulled out of this deal. They fancied themselves. I'm sure there's another target after this. Arsenal have done very well. They've brought in a very good players, two very good players in Fabio Vieira. I know they signed Marquinhos, but he's young. Two very good established players they've already brought into the club. Excellent business so far. There's still like just under 2 months of this transfer window to go to get more in. And I think people kind of, there's this kind of weird feeling because I think a lot of us have been fighting over a lot of the same players in this last 2 to 3 weeks that maybe at the end of this week when preseason, it's almost people have set this weird deadline in their minds of we've got to get it done before preseason. Well, there's going to be more deals after this next week because if one of us is missing out on Lisandro, meaning we're going to go for somebody else afterwards, so more transfer dealings will happen. And just because you miss out on a primary target doesn't even mean that the individual that comes in to replace them is going to do a bad job. We've seen this happen in football before. Man United, I know, look, he was a great player as well, missed out on Ronaldinho and ended up signing Cristiano Ronaldo. And I actually wouldn't rewrite history to change that because you never quite know how it's going to work out. I remember Arsenal fans fuming when I was younger because they sold Nicolas Anelka and they used the sale of Nicolas Anelka to buy Thierry Henry and to develop their new training ground, which yielded them.
I have another example that's a little bit closer to home. Last summer, everybody was like freaking out because Buendia ended up going to Aston Villa. We got Odegaard. Nobody's talking about Buendia anymore. So.
And he was your main target. You tried to buy him first, and that's I don't like the PR.
It's okay, Terry. You don't have to go back into it.
No, I know, but the point is, it's not something people should dwell on. Like it's weird what fans focus on. And I was sitting listening to a space earlier, and all I was hearing from rival fans, they were going at a United fan, but I've also heard this towards Arsenal, and it was very much like, "What do you think? How well do you think you're going to do next year?" This guy was like, "Oh, I want us to play better football and progress in the league and really settle in this new system and progress." That's not big enough expectations for Man United. And he kind of threw it back and went, "Well, what do you expect us to do?" He goes, "I doubt you'll finish higher than 6th. So why are you angry at me just for saying I want to see like a foundation built so we can push on the following year?" And the guy didn't really have an answer for it. And it's almost like this weird, like football fans shouldn't be back your club, but be goddamn realistic. And there's no way next year Man United are challenging for a Premier League title. There's no way Arsenal are challenging for a Premier League title, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I think both will challenge for the top 4 if things go well. But of course, there are like, it's just kind of weird to me how people are acting almost like the same time as saying Man United are at the worst state they've been in 30 years, but they're also saying that we should expect an amazing season. It does not compute in my brain as a logical train of thought. If you think Man United are going to be crap, how can you predict or expect?
Well, how can you incite hysteria? You know, they want, it was fun last season watching you guys in hysteria. So you have to move the goalposts and make it something unobtainable, you know, so that if you say this Manchester United, if they finished in the top 4 or they challenged for top 4, that would be good for where they're at because they're starting a new project. How can you get Manchester United fans up in hysteria? You have to move the goalposts further off and then go with the usual, you're lowering your standards and you're accepting mediocrity when it's like that old chestnut. Like, you know what I mean? It's like you have to be realistic based on where you're at. No Manchester United fan equally, just like no Arsenal fan, no real fans are sitting around saying that it's okay for these two clubs to be sitting around fighting for top 4, but you have to crawl before you walk. Like, you know what I mean? But if you keep that little, you're accepting mediocrity.
Yeah,
you're not really keeping up the standards.
It's a great, and those challenges work really well on Twitter because depending on how good a writer you are, they can be hard to respond to in that way, especially for me as someone who's dyslexic. But when I read them, I'm just sitting there like, what do you mean I'm lowering the standards? But people have this thing, as a United fan did it earlier today to me. He was like, you're essentially supporting the Glazers by allowing a bad season to happen. Like, but I'm not supporting the Glazers. I'm angry that we are where we are. But again, Erik ten Hag and his new coaching staff and the new squad we're building and the new system and philosophy are going to take time to get to a certain level. You've also, we're not Bayern Munich. We're not in a one-horse race. We're not in Scotland where it's essentially a 2-horse race. There are 5 teams that are ahead of us right now that we've got to catch up. And of course, next season, one of those 5 teams, maybe even 2 of those 5 teams could fall off. That is not beyond the realms of possibility. To expect like 3 or 4 of them to fall off and for us to be so much better year one that we compete for major honors and we sort of bring back the glory day standards is crazy. And what I also find interesting about lowering the standards is these are the same fans that when you bring up the past around Fergie wouldn't have allowed this and Fergie wouldn't have done that. And they go, why are you bringing up the past for? We're in 2022 now. What's it got to do with Fergie? Well, where do you think all these expectations arose from? Sir Matt Busby and Sir Alex Ferguson. They were literally the 2 managers in our history that gave the expectations that you're now frying back at me. It's honestly that the lack of understanding is crazy. And I like the pressure that people are putting on Man United. I know that it shows a fear that it could work. And I know people are scared of Arsenal, and I'll take it away from my club because people think I'm being biased. People are scared of Arsenal right now. They'll say, no, I'm not. They're going to flop. They're going to fall away. But if Arsenal land their targets, they become scary for 2 reasons. One, they've got a team that will be even better than last year, and they were showing signs of improvement. They just burnt out at the end. And even if Arteta isn't good enough, somebody else better will come in after him and take over a very talented group of players, lots of excellent youngsters, and take them to another level. And people, I think, are looking at Arsenal, and they are not. Everybody knows they're slowly but surely not. They're not the whipping boys they were 2 or 3 years ago. There's no way. I remember going into games last season where fans of teams like Aston Villa were supremely confident of getting results. They all just thought Arsenal were going to be at the same level as the season before. We're going to be able to beat them up. We're going to be able to bully them. No, you're not. And if they sign 2 or 3 more targets at the age profile they're aiming at, 23, 24, 25, they're suddenly, yes, the average age of the squad might raise. Maybe not the squad, because it's very easy to manipulate if a few older players leave and a few younger players get promoted. But the general core group, 13, 14, 15 players used, might be a year older. Who the hell cares? Arsenal will be a very dangerous outfit. And I also think with United, people look at them and think, Ten Hag gets that team playing well. There's a lot of, everyone knows there's a lot of talent in our side. There's the Man United fans with their fake outrage of, oh my God, I can't believe Ten Hag's excited to work with a handful of these players. Well, he was always going to be excited to work with some of these players. They're not bad. They just haven't been coached. There hasn't been the system. There's been a loss of belief. And there's a lot of rotten apples in that dressing room, some of which have, of course, gone now. But yeah, I'm enjoying the obsession. It doesn't mean we're going to be back. But you can see there's an element of, oh, God, what if they are? What if they are? Because if Man United and Arsenal were to return back, it'd be beautiful for the league. Aaron here with a member chat says, I don't understand how a lot of Arsenal fans say their window is amazing and have no complaints, but still expect their team to barely scrap 5th. Team has to do better than the year before. I mean, you'd agree with that, wouldn't you? As in, better than last year.
But equally, I see a lot of confidence on my timeline. People saying that we are going to be better than we were last season. So, but then at the same time, I think that there's a removal of context that always happens when people are trying to explain certain things. There's going to be 7 really good teams all fighting for 4 spots. So somebody's going to miss out, but you could have a really good season next season and still not make the top 4. Let's not sit here and act like Tottenham aren't doing well in the transfer window. It's kind of like, I do think that most Arsenal fans agree that we need to do better. But I think where I'm more focused than anything is not necessarily the place. Because the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking okay, there's going to be a lot of good teams. We need to improve in goals. We need to give up less goals. We need to get more points. That's what I'm going to look at because that's the only way I'm going to be able to decide whether or not we're better. When Leicester won the league, we finished 2nd, and we were pretty crap that season. The next season, we had more points and more goals, and we finished 5th, and that's the reality. Everybody else gets to have transfer windows too. Everybody else gets to get better too. I just need to see some real improvement, and some of the mistakes that we made need to go away. That may seem like moving the goalpost, but reality, that's the only way to really figure out whether or not you improved or not. Because I do think it's going to be a lot more difficult this season.
Yeah.
Even though I do predict one team is going to do worse than people think.
Yeah, and look, I think for me, I'm really waiting to a few more deals are done before I kind of jump off the deep end and give these predictions. I think we have to. We spoke about it in the terrace meeting today. We're not going to start doing proper prediction shows for at least another 3 weeks for a few more deals to be done. And even then, the predictions will change at the end of the transfer window after a few games in the Prem have been played, because it gives you an idea. But of course, not finishing in the top 4 next year doesn't it automatically mean you haven't progressed. It really depends upon everybody else. You know, if Chelsea struggle like they did towards the end of last year, if Spurs are hit and miss, if Man United have a bad season again and Arsenal don't make top 4, that'll be a problem. But if, as you say, if everybody is 15 to 20 points better and Arsenal still miss out, but it's so close, then there was a conversation. How did they do in the cups? How did they do in Europe? There's still a
Yeah,
conversation as to whether
absolutely.
there's still a conversation as to whether or not you bring in a better manager at that point after Arteta had 3 and a bit years. But it doesn't make it abject failure. The only way, and we're talking about this, and this is what people I don't think can do. Their minds are too binary. We're talking about the individual season and not where Arsenal are as a whole or the overall project of Mikel Arteta. Some will say, well, after 4 years and 400 million spent, he's done some good things, but overall it's a failure. We've got to move on to another manager. That's a fair assessment. But Man United are in a very different position. Ten Hag can only be judged on what he does between now and May. He can't be judged on anything that happened prior because that's not his world. Man United, though, can be assessed on the last 9 years still. It's ring fencing those two things from one another. But, I put out...
Also, I know you put out a tweet saying, like, do Arsenal fans need to ask more from the owners? We do have to have expectations, though, of the rest of this window. We started off really well, and we missed out on some targets, or a target right now. I anticipate it'll be more than one. We do need to expect that they're going to bring in like targets. They can't just say, well, we missed out on a top target, so we're just going to do whatever. We should expect a midfielder, a starting level midfielder, and a left back and a forward, regardless of what happened. But what I will say is that I find it really strange how, Arsenal and Manchester United have no right to be, I think, attracting some of the players that they are. And I think that just speaks to, like, where the clubs are and stuff like that. But, like, I just find it really strange that, like, people are so thing about the Frankie de Jong situation because he's such a good player. And the fact that you guys can potentially pull him, I think that does speak to the manager that you guys have. And, like, even Gabriel Jesus, like, we should be nowhere near that player, but the manager's connection makes a big deal. So I do think that we're treated kind of weirdly, like, our connection shouldn't matter. Like, if that was Conte bringing in players that they have no right to bring in, maybe like a Perisic, nobody gives a crap. But when it's Arsenal or Manchester United, it's like, oh, well, or the players aren't as good as what they were supposed to be. Everybody uses their connections. There's nothing different.
But
It's
you
the
know what?
same.
But you know what it is, though? It's because people, were either themselves or via other content creators, have convinced themselves that our pool's gone. The pool. I know a lot of Gooners don't agree with Lee Gunner, but one thing even the TPS have to agree with, he said it, because we can still sign top quality players if we miss out on the Champions League. And you have. Man United are able to do it. And what's interesting, you mentioned the Frankie de Jong situation, is although they announced the players yesterday, there's a big report coming from a very credible source out of Barcelona, who said that officially Kessie and Eriksen are still not registered with the Liga. They can't do it yet. They still need to raise more money, right? So people are still pulling on this. De Jong thing's never going to happen. There's another report that's come out today. Someone put the comments in here saying that Frankie de Jong doesn't want to reduce his salary at Barca, but he wants to stay at the club in the current conditions. Man United are still on for the deal, and it's a case of people aren't. That's all fair. But Barca want him out. And players typically don't want to stay at clubs where they're not wanted. And this is what I mean. People are doing, because it's Man United and because it's Arsenal, there is this obsession with trying to twist it, trying to style it in a way and ignoring the generalities of transfers. No one's denying that Frankie wouldn't prefer to stay at Barcelona. But if they can't afford him and they want to get rid of him, he will go. He won't retire and go, well, that's it. Hanging my boots up now. I'm not going to go and play anywhere else. if Barca don't end up having the money for Rafinha, now, yes, it's spoke about as being very close, nearly happening. There are still sources at Chelsea that believe they've got a great chance here. Chelsea fans are, oh, no, we've got to walk away. He doesn't want us 100%. This is how transfers always work. We're just seeing for the first time ever where clubs in England have got proper money again after 2 years of CV, the way that transfers are really fought out, the way 2 or 3 clubs are in for players, and everybody's panicking. Lisandro Martinez has not made an outright statement that he'd prefer either Man United or Arsenal. By the Frankie de Jong logic, we should both pull out. Because, well, hang on, I need to know 100% he wants me more. Well, you don't know this. And players don't think like that. They think professionally what's best for their careers. And I said it on the show last night, and somebody said it's because Erik ten Hag's a puppet, and I'll get onto why. They said, my question was this. Erik ten Hag, and if anyone in the comments can give me an answer better than he's a puppet, I'll give you £10,000 cash right now if you can stump me, and I can't come back with an answer. 10 grand cash. Let me just say this. How would a player like Ten Hag, who knows the agent very well, has 2 or 3 players in the Man United squad already with the same agent as Frankie de Jong, and who knows Frankie de Jong personally, do you really think, and why would Ten Hag allow the transfer to go this far if he didn't know whether the player would join or not if the bid was accepted? Like, someone at Man United, 3 or 4 of them share the same agent. Surely they know. Like, people go, no personal terms have been discussed. How is that even plausible when Barca are offering him up on a plate? It's just a crazy one for me. I said before, I'll eat my hat live on air. If we get the bid accepted, we sit in a room with Frankie, and Frankie goes, Erik, why have you done this? I didn't want to come. It's not going to happen, in my opinion. But there we go. Nick here says false equivalence. I don't understand how it's a false equivalence. Explain to me how it's a false equivalence. Frankie wants to be at one club more than another. Therefore, Man United should pull out. It's the same difference when you're buying a player. If he doesn't choose your club 100%, should he not? No one go in for him? It's weird. It's not how it works. It's not the real world, and that's the point I was making. People thought that Arsenal will finish in Champions League. Nobody's going to want to join them. You're a big boy Arsenal Football Club. Of course, people want to join you. Like, Arsenal fans have got to. And equally, that goes in with the expectations. It's why fans should have high expectations for their clubs to get back to the pinnacle. Because Man United and Arsenal are juggernauts in the world of football, and we should goddamn act like it. And I mean, not spending money, the way we run, the way we operate, the way we hold ourselves, you know? We should act like it, and we should be acting like we're a tin pot organization in League Two.
Yeah. I mean, it is nerve-wracking to be in for players that your rivals are in for, and inevitability that you're not going to get them all, or, not making an additional bid because you had a certain price you wanted to pay for a player and your team just ghosts it. Like, it is frustrating, but at the same time, like, I've seen, and it kind of goes back to, your point about seeing change. I am very, hot and cold on Adu, but he has made some good transfers, and what I've seen from him versus what I saw from Raul and Ivan Gazidis and Arsene Wenger at the end of his tenure, I think that we're doing things a lot smarter. Could we be even more smarter? Absolutely. But at the beginning, like, especially where we're at, like, you really got a penny pinch, because these people will really look at, Arsenal and Manchester United as fools, so you just have to wait it out a little bit longer.
Listen, we've lauded City for years, so very rarely going above 60 million, 50 million, 60 million pound on deals because of brilliant negotiations. They sell players for lots of money. Liverpool, they got rid of players like Jordan Ibe for 20 plus million pounds, and that's celebrated. Teams like Arsenal and Man United want to do that, and everyone's angry about it. It's strange. A comment here from Abdul that says, because it's an opportunistic signing. I understand that Frankie de Jong is opportunistic, but my point still remains.
That's good.
It is good. There's no way that Frankie de Jong and Erik ten Hag have not spoke. There's no way that Frankie de Jong and his agent have not spoke, and therefore that information has been relayed into the club. Man United, there is just no way. It's impossible. And if they do that, I will turn my back on this whole rebuild instantly. If they're stupid enough to spend 6 weeks, and you're not talking Woodward, and we're not talking Matt Judd, we're talking Ten Hag here, right? He isn't going to do that. He's not a dumb man. If you actually research his family and how wealthy they are outside of football, and the education they've all got and the upbringing they've got. He's not a dumb man. He isn't going to do this. I gave the example earlier to KJ. So it's like me creating a role at the Football Terrace for KJ. I get it signed off by the accounts team. We raise the money to pay him. You know, we get the job title. We get him the company car. We do all of this. And then I phone KJ and he's like, bruv, I don't want to come and work for you. The only way I'd do that is if I knew he wanted to come. You don't, it's honestly, it's crazy. It's crazy that people still think that. It's unbelievable. And some people may not believe they're agreed on. But remember, 3 summers ago, it was personal terms agreed everywhere. Then it was personal terms, no problem. That's my favorite saying. Personal terms are not thought to be problematic. That's just a get out card for certain journos. I tell you, it's a crazy comment there. There's a comment that came in here that says Martinez isn't worth any more than 35 million. I don't know what this meant to say. That next word. Anything past that is overspending. But if he's important to Ten Hag, which I doubt because he wanted Timber, then get him. I don't know. I listen.
You want me to give you my take on this? You may not like it.
Go on.
But my take on this is I honestly don't think Manchester United cared anything about Martinez until Arsenal got involved. Because here's the thing. You did go for Timber first, and that's exactly who you wanted. I know you're looking at both sides, but you also, I think we're in for Bastoni early on in the transfer window. Martinez is not a first choice. I don't think anybody can really look at it and say that he's a first choice. But for Ten Hag and his project and for the optics, it really wouldn't look good if Ajax were going to sell one player and you couldn't get Timber, but Arsenal turned around and wrapped Martinez up and walked him over to the Premier League, and Ten Hag didn't have a say. So I don't think he's your number one target, or was. I do think that it's a little sense of not a little bit of pride, but a little bit of like, well, if I have a chance to get him, I'll put it out there. What do you think?
I think there's large elements of truth to that. I don't think he wasn't a target. I think it's a player that it was almost, he isn't maybe needed this summer. But then Arsenal were in, and this is what happens, though. This is what happened with Arsenal last year with Sambi. Sambi was an Arsenal target, but it was only because of interest shown by other clubs they acted last summer. I remember sitting there with Christophe Terrer, and he said that. He's probably a year or two away from being ready for a move to Arsenal, but Arsenal being almost forced into acting because other people are showing interest. Liverpool did it with Luis Diaz. They were not going to move him until the summer, and then Spurs went in for him and they had to act. So I wouldn't be surprised if, in the end, this might not come out this year. It might be something that comes out in a book in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. But yeah, I think there's elements of he was a target, but not someone that United were prioritizing. But then if Arsenal get him, we're never going to sign him. So it's almost, we have to act now. And that's what happened. And that's what I mean. That's why there's fluidity in the transfer market, which is important and for people to understand. I think what it does show, though, is I think both our clubs have been labeled with this by our fans, that we can't work on more than one deal at once. And I think that the way we've operated this summer so far proves to people that we are able to. Terry, you're a toxic positivity fan. I've seen a few of you try to throw that at me. There's a difference, though, isn't there? There's a difference with it. I'm entitled. I listen to other people's opinions. I'm not being nasty about them. Yes, I'm calling some of them fungus fans, but who am I calling the fungus fans? Not the people that are negative. No. You're twisting my words, dear friend. The fungus fans are the people that are angry at the stuff they were asking for. And they're only ever angry. I want us to save money on transfers. Why don't we just pay the asking price? That's a fungus fan. I'm having a laugh about them. Doesn't make me a TPF. If you're like someone that says, I'm not happy with Ten Hag's targets, I'll challenge you, but you're entitled to that opinion. I'm not going out on the internet and like trying to get you cancelled for not liking Ten Hag targets. Very big difference, my friend. But good try, my friend. Good attempt there. Erik Ten Hag wanted a left-footed centre-back. That's why. Yeah, he may have done. But of course, we did go for Timber first, and Timber bottled it. So we had to move on to someone that had the...
I'm just saying that was his priority. Timber was the priority. But that doesn't mean that he didn't want Lisandro Martinez. But I have this weird feeling that had we never went in for him, y'all wouldn't have went for Lisandro Martinez. I just had this weird feeling. Because it doesn't... Like, I know that maybe this is just projection. I don't think it looks good. I don't. You know what I mean? Like, any Ajax player coming out of there this summer that's going to the Premier League has got to go to Manchester United. Cannot go to Arsenal. Can't.
Yeah. It's interesting as well. Like, the more I read about Lisandro, the more you see how highly rated he is.
Mm.
But he was kind of an under the radar player. And I mean that in the sense of he's one of those players. It's hard for a player to be unknown nowadays because of the internet, essentially, computer games, the internet, and everything else. But nobody was talking about Lisandro Martinez really all of last season. No fan of our clubs was going, we need to go out and buy Lisandro Martinez from Ajax. I think that Ten Hag knows how good he is. And again, saw it as well, no one's really in for him. I can't buy everybody I want in one summer. So maybe it's a player I leave for a later stage. Because Timber was a player that I saw linked to a number of places. But then, as you say, the world changes. Arsenal got involved and he probably thought, shit. Knocked on the door of Myrtle and said, listen, we need to do something now because Arsenal are going to take him. And if Man United weren't in for him, I think that you'd have already got him for the bids that you've made. I think the fact Man United have got involved, Ajax will, of course, as you say, hang on and try and push that price up and create a bidding war. And it's a priority for Arsenal because you're getting involved. You're not walking away. You're not running away. It's like, no, this is an important player for us and for the system.
I mean, he's an Arteta player if I've ever seen it. Like, it's just, all you guys now are looking at videos and doing research and seeing how great he is. Good for you. Good player. I'm very disappointed. I like him. Like, I'm so disappointed. You guys are not even you're not gonna even treat him right.
Oh, Ten Hag will. We're all right. We'll be fine. Like,
you're not gonna even treat him right.
New world. In fairness, though, Arteta's not going to be your manager in a year's time. That doesn't really matter.
Yes, he will. I think he'll still be here.
That's one of our hot takes. That first time I'm releasing it. I think Arteta will be sacked at the end of the season.
That's a lukewarm take. Very lukewarm. I've been gearing up for that one for a while.
No, I think it will be it, but I don't necessarily mean it's. I just think it will be. I think it will be kind of like you've taken us as far as you can go. I don't think it will be a get the banners out, Robbie. It's time to go. I just think it will be a moving on okay. And somebody else. I get that feeling. I want to address something before we move on. We are going to talk Chelsea on the show and their first signing, and I want to speak a little bit about Malacia. And I want to address this Partey situation because I keep seeing it in the comments, and I can't move forward and not speak about it. There is no confirmation that Thomas Partey is the individual in question that's been arrested and facing allegations and investigations surrounding sexual assault. There is no proof. We all saw the tweet from Chris Wheatley, who's a very credible Arsenal journalist, and I quote tweeted him. And I had a pop at people that were accusing Partey and making jokes about him. And I still stand by that tweet. I have subsequently deleted it because I thought that a tier one, a credible journalist had confirmed 100% that it wasn't him. But I still stand by my sentiment. And my sentiment is, all I'm really seeing from people is I see people desperate for it to be Partey so they can attack Arsenal Football Club. And for me, I just think it's absolutely horrendous that people are out there making jokes about it, that people are out there making accusations where they don't know anything about what's going on. They care not about the alleged victim. It's all about trying to point score against Arsenal. I saw this when the Mason Greenwood situation happened. People, I would say 60% of the posts I've seen from people about it are bantering Man United and attacking Man United as opposed to the issue at the heart of this. And as I've said, we're not going to make any allegations or speculations on the football terrace of whether it is or it isn't Thomas Partey. Whatever I've been told or whatever I've heard privately, whatever I've read is what it is. But you're all asking in the comment sections. One guy said, why are you ignoring the elephant in the room? There is nothing that we at the terrace will say about the situation other than to say, we're not going to say anything more about the situation. I'm addressing your question, which is we have no idea what's going on. We have no idea of the extent of the allegations. We don't know who the player is at this moment in time. Everybody's assuming, and maybe the assumption ends up being right. And at that point, maybe it's addressed. But you do realize there's going to be zero evidence released. There's going to be zero context released. So to even then talk about it, other than to say, if he's charged and out on bail, maybe he shouldn't be playing football, that's probably about as far as it can go. Until that point, nothing's going to be said. We don't know what's going on. And I think it's disgusting for everybody involved to speculate and push forward. And journalists, I will say this, including Chris Wheatley, need to, again, verify their information a lot better, because obviously that update, and I've seen the tweets, that update has led to, there's one poor guy who's probably at work and hasn't checked his Twitter again. He's got 10,000 likes on a Thomas Partey appreciation thread. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't appreciate Thomas Partey if you're an Arsenal fan, but right now we have no idea what's going on, and people just need to be informed. But stop the speculation, stop spreading the unknowns, not the lies, but the unknowns right now, because it's really frustrating to read. It really is. It really is. I'm sorry. You know, it is. And a lot of people are, Terry, but you didn't have that energy for Basuma and Greenwood. Well, when Basuma was arrested, we were told it was Basuma and we spoke about it. But what did I say? Until he's found guilty, I'm going to treat him as innocent, but we should also respect the alleged victim. The Greenwood situation was different because we heard and saw evidence. We saw things. We had an understanding. If that happens with Partey and we're shown video footage, or whoever this person is, then the situation changes. But none of these circumstances are the same as one another, even though the alleged crime is or similar to one another. Stop with this nonsense, please, and grow up a little bit and wait until information comes out, and then you can have an opinion on what should or shouldn't happen. But you have no idea right now. And yeah, I don't know if you've got anything to say on it, but it's just frustrating that people want to talk about something that nobody knows anything about.
Yeah, I mean, I said this on my channel about the Basuma thing when, you know, people were saying like, "Oh, I wouldn't want him at my club because of this and that." For me, like, you just have to go with the law and you have to let it go to the full extent before you say anything. I've seen these situations go more than one way. There's more than one outcome, and I know that we want to jump the gun and make a conclusion. And unfortunately, it does seem like a lot of it has to do with point scoring. And maybe it's just because people have never been in a situation like that, or they've never been near somebody like that. But this is not anything to take lightly. It's a very serious situation. And it's not just rivals. I find the Arsenal fan base to be very embarrassing right now as well. Like, it's very disappointing to see, especially because this is not our first go round. You would think after the first couple of scenarios that we've had with Mendy, Greenwood, and Basuma, that we would have learned our lesson just to let everything play out, not make it about point scoring, and remember the victims, because it's just too serious to be sitting around making it about, oh, not my midfielder, oh, not my so-and-so. Like, the stuff that I'm seeing is shocking. So that's all I really have to say on it. Is for me, it has to go through the full extent of the law. And even at that, like, and I'll just say this, like, anybody who's found guilty of something like that, I don't want them playing at my club. But equally, I needed to go through the full extent of the law before I decide that that person has done those things.
Exactly. And as you said already, and a lot of it is point scoring. I've seen when Basuma signed for Tottenham, I did see some egregious tweets from Arsenal fans. Oh, I'm glad we didn't get him and take the risk because he's going to be found guilty of so-and-so. Spurs are outrageous. Only for him to be cleared a few days later. And I said at the time, I didn't think Spurs would buy him without getting full disclosure to the case and making an informed decision. Because again, that's grown-up thinking. But equally, then what then happens is all the Spurs fans that saw Arsenal fans do that, go for them. Only the other day, we get all these idiot Man United fans who do these posts every week of, we've got to bring Mason Greenwood back. And then what you get is replies. And I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans, and Arsenal are relevant for this reason. You get an Arsenal fan reply and say, not my star boy, and I'll post a picture of Saka. So what do you think is going to happen when there's an allegation around an Arsenal player doing this? All those same fans of other clubs then come for you. And it becomes a childish tit for tat. And I mean it. People that are joking and making light of this, the internet's got to do something about it and start investigating these people, because these people have got serious problems, that serious issues in their mind. If they think that the way they talk about these subject matters are right, it's absolutely crazy. It really, really is. But that's all I'm going to say on the matter. We're not going to speculate and say what should or shouldn't happen, because we've got no idea what's going on. So if you expect to see something on here from us, like, you're not. It isn't going to happen. Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that. And people have to be careful naming people on social media, because there's laws against that stuff and everything. So you just got to be very, very careful indeed. That there's that's as simple and straightforward as that. Now on to football. Question for you. Why are Chelsea fans panicking?
I think the Bowley era is starting to go into questionable territory for some of them. I remember early on, it's the Bowley era, it's the Bowley era. But what I will say is I think that, some of the shift, I do think has not hurt them, but put them in a position where they can't just throw their muscle around and make things happen the way that they're used to. Um, let's get it right. Chelsea is not used to being in a market where they lose out on targets. That's not how it goes. That's not what they're used to. And I'm seeing a lot more battles for the players that they're in for than I'm used to seeing. And I have a feeling it might be because they just don't have the same. I read something like Todd Bowley wants to be involved. He wants to run the transfers. Not sure if that's a great idea. And I think there's just a little bit of this is different. I'm not used to it. They have yet to sign anybody, right? Manchester United has made their first signing. Arsenal have made 2 signings. Spurs have made 1,000 signings. Manchester City have made signings. So I think feeling like they're behind and the new era doesn't feel the same. And, coming in for Rafinha, that should have been it. And I do think if Roman Abramovich had been there, that would have been it. But now Barcelona feel like they can go at Chelsea. They feel like they have a chance. It's a new situation. De Ligt, looked like something that was in motion. Now all of a sudden Bayern are interested. And so it may just be the territory that we're in, that there's just a couple of really good players for key positions and they have to fight for these players and they're not used to it. Or the change in ownership has led to there being a little bit of maybe, things slipping through the cracks. I don't know. But that being said, you're going to sign Raheem Sterling. This whole, he's a tap-in merchant nonsense is just so stupid. Raheem Sterling is a world-class player. If he comes to Chelsea, he improves your attack. He becomes instantly the best attacker that you have. So don't know why that would be an issue. And Ake, I guess it's because he came through their academy, buying him back. He's all right, but that won't be it. There's still plenty of transfer window to go. But I do think when you look around at some of the signings that, their contemporaries are making, they were in for Richarlison, Tottenham got that done, and for Gabriel Jesus. And as much as they want to act like they weren't, you were in for these players and you didn't get them. So, Manchester United, Frankie de Jong, these are big signings. So Chelsea needs to, get going. But I think they will. And there is panicking and frustration. But I think all of that does come from just maybe a little bit of what's going on. This Bowley guy, what is he all about? But what do you think it comes down to? Do you think it's, not trusting the hierarchy now that there's some new people involved, or just a little bit of, just fans being fans?
I think a lot of what you said, I don't want to repeat. It was absolutely spot on. You've also got this situation where last Tuesday. Yes, last Tuesday. Is it Tuesday today or Wednesday? Is it Tuesday?
If you told me it was Friday, I'd believe you. I think it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday today. Last Tuesday, we finished this show, and within minutes of finishing, the Rafinha Chelsea news broke. And at that moment, when the Rafinha and Chelsea news broke, there was this sense and there was this feeling and there was this, we're about to pull in a big deal. And then that faded. And like when anything falls through your fingers, there's a sense of feeling quite low and deflated. And they need to just get a few deals in to perk the Chelsea fans up. And I think that once Sterling is announced, and that's still protruding longer than Chelsea wanted it to, but it's still in a good position. I think that once Sterling's through the door, they're still leading the race for De Ligt. They've got more money than Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich don't want to pay the money that Juve are asking for. This is going to become, I said tweet there, this is going to become a battle of money. Chelsea have got to put the money where their mouth. They bring in De Ligt, they bring in Sterling. You know, maybe Ake is a player they bring in. They start bringing in these signings. I think they'll be okay. I also think with Chelsea, they've got a much better squad than I think even their own fans believe right now. I think there's almost been this forgetting how good certain individuals in that team are. Yes, Rudiger leaving is bad news. Listen, Christiansen leaving, I don't think there's much cop in that. Aspilicueta, very good servant, but of course, you know, very much past his best, as it were. The midfield needs that revamp. We kind of know that it does. I still think you'll buy a midfield player. The attack, yes, you'd like to get rid of lots of those players that are up the top. And it looks like it's going to be right now. Lukaku, of course, is gone. And then Ziyech that will move on. But you'll make those signings, 4 or 5 of them. I know there's a lot of clubs looking at Broja. I think Broja is going to get a chance and be very good for you. You've got Conor Gallagher coming back into this team next year. There's a lot to be excited about as a Chelsea fan, but I think it's the fear of the unknown. New owners, a new approach. They are, as you say, they are far more economical. Doesn't mean they're tight or they're going to act broke, but it's like, well, we need to make sure we get the right price for players, sell people at the right times, so that the process is a little bit slower. But I do think our Chelsea fans have got to relax a little bit more. And a few have said we're not panicking. It's just frustration. And I do get the frustration. But remember, it was only like 5 weeks ago, you were still under the sanction rules and you couldn't even talk to players. And then what happened is that the new owners came in and saw that your manager and your directors of football and the sporting directors, etc., were on different wavelengths. And they've gone, hang on, we weren't going to do this summer, but we're going to get rid of them and give you what you want, Thomas Tuchel. So you're now also starting flat-footed with a number of targets that you haven't been talking to all year. Some of these transfers, you look at Gabriel Jesus, months of work have gone into that. Youri Tielemans at Arsenal hasn't even completed yet. They haven't put the bid in yet. A year Arsenal have been working on that deal. So Chelsea fans have just got to understand that it isn't going to happen overnight. And the worst thing you can do as a football club right now, Chelsea, is panic and just snapshot buy players that you're not too sure on, that don't fit what Thomas Tuchel wants. You were going to try and build something very much in the same way that City and Liverpool have now. You're taking what Roman did brilliantly, and you're essentially adapting it to the year 2022, where continuity, club philosophy and system, a cohesive style across all your teams, the types of players you buy, where you loan your players out to, is going to become absolutely paramount to how Chelsea operate under the Bodie Group. That's just going to take you a little bit of time to adapt. And I just think a little more patience is needed. But it's hard when you're all so used to having Roman. It just went boom, 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 done. Quick, decisive decisions. And it did work. You won 2 Champions Leagues. You won a number of Premier Leagues. But you haven't been as good since 2014 as you were in the first sort of 10 years or so of his ownership. Yes, you won a Champions League and a couple of league titles, but you've not challenged for the league in 5 years. Why? Because of the way that Liverpool and City have been operating. You have to adapt. You have to become more like them. But it is going to take you a little bit of time, in my opinion. I just think there isn't.
If you want to become like them, just buy their players. That's essentially the formula.
But listen, I don't even.
No, but
Nathan Ake is not even a bad sign. I don't understand the panicking. Nathan Ake, 3 years ago, when a lot of people were looking at him when he was at Bournemouth, a lot of clubs were, he's talented. I remember seeing Chelsea fans say, we shouldn't let him go, be a good backup. You lot are going to play 4-4-2 next year. If you land De Ligt, Ake's a backup. I know he's maybe a little bit more expensive than you want, but he's a backup. He's your third choice centre-back. It's going to be De Ligt and it's going to be Thiago Silva. That's a really good
Do you think they're going to get De Ligt?
I think they've got a great chance. I think they've got a really good chance of getting him. Well, do you think he's going to go Bayern? Do you think he's going to go Bayern then?
I don't know. I mean, it would be nice to see them miss out on a couple more targets. Just because. But, I mean, I feel like the financial power that the Premier League has, and in particular, like Chelsea, I do think that, like, financially, they have an ability to do things that other clubs just don't. And we know Bayern Munich do not overpay. They don't, so I don't know what would have to happen to get it done. But yeah, the little exclusive that came out, I was like, oh, that's nice. Got to battle it out for De Ligt as well. Cool. But they might get him.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone through as many of those reports as I can. I mean, Nazir Kinsella here says that discussions regarding Nathan Ake are thought to be more advanced than De Ligt. Of course, they're not in a battle for anybody else. Man City want to recoup the 41 million they paid for Ake, which isn't expected to be an issue. Main issue holding up any deal is City's desire to sign a replacement. What I find intriguing, Roy said it last night on the top six, that he's not very keen on Tuchel's talent ID.
Who said that?
Roy, Chelsea fan on the top six. And I was kind of like, I don't think he's doing anything wrong with talent ID. I just think this is, we're not linked to as many fashionable players as I want. We're not linked to the players that everybody on social media is gushing over. Like Raheem Sterling's one of them. So many Chelsea fans are just not that psyched. I'm like, do you know how good Sterling is? He's one of the best inside forwards in Europe over the last 6 years. Easy. And he's still got years left ahead of him. No injury problems. He's better, honestly, barring Eden Hazard, in the last 10 years, I don't think they've had an attacker as good as Raheem Sterling at their club. Costa, maybe you throw into that.
No.
But I don't think anybody's better than Raheem Sterling. He is so good. And they're not excited. I don't understand it.
Oh, no. Throw me all the City leftovers you can give me. I'll take it.
You guys are City light. You are City light at Arsenal.
Yeah. City on Wish.
Yeah, wish.com City.
The Wish version.
They should just let you win their League Cup. You know, like teams are allowed to have their team playing like the FA Vans trophy. Their under 23s can play in the lower level trophies. That's what the City should let you guys do for them.
Exactly.
You used for a little while. You were City's feeder club as well. I remember though when that money first came to City, the amount of Arsenal players they were buying was crazy. It's crazy.
That's how they built themselves up.
But exactly,
there's always been a connection there. Terrible times. The one player that we should have sold to them, we didn't, and had to give him away to you guys. We ended up with
I wish you had gone City. Abdul here says, disagree, Terry. Raheem Sterling has been average since 2020. I don't think so. I think the change is as good as a rest. He's going to come back alive.
I think he'll have something to say. Like, he's in his prime. You know, it's World Cup year. I think Raheem Sterling, it also depends on what Chelsea do with their system. I do think there's an issue there in terms of scoring goals. Maybe with the individuals changing, that'll help. But I can't help but look at that group of players and think, are they really that crap where they can't score enough goals? Or, you know, is it system? But Raheem Sterling is such a good player. Like, come on. And the thing about getting in-league talent, which I think a lot of teams are doing, is so that they can hit the ground running. A lot of people are not trusting these from other league talents anymore because they are overpriced and they always need adaptation. Look at all the players that you guys bought. Timo Werner was supposed to be like the best thing. Paid like, 50 million for him. He's flopped. Kai Havertz needed 2 seasons to get going, and he cost 70-something million. Ziyech never really got going. So getting Raheem Sterling in means you start right away. He's going to know the league. He's going to be putting goals in the back of the net. I just don't really see the downside of it. I really, really don't.
It's all about fashion. It is all about fashion and what look for a lot of fans. It's like what looks good, what feels good. You know, it's a bit like Lisandro Martinez. Man United fans and Arsenal fans are buzzing about him because it's fashionable. And everyone's like, oh, I've read this thing about him. He sounds good. He sounds this. You know, if he was from a different country or his hair color was different or he was a little taller or a little shorter, it would change everybody's opinion. Like, it's just crazy. Like, it's all about what's fashionable. It's a bit like things like Love Island. No one enjoys Love Island. It's just fashionable to tweet about it. So everybody watches it. So, I need to join in the Twitter bug. Everyone tweeting about it. Oh, let me watch it just so I can be in the gang. Honestly. Sheep everywhere. That's all it is. I'm not even against the show per se. It's the people that watch it. It's like I literally saw a guy tweet going, "Oh, I love being involved in the Love Island chat online." I'm like, "Oh, poor you. Imagine that's your life. That's the best part of your day." I get to tweet about Love Island. Rah, bruv. Honestly, go out and live a little, get some air. But there we go. Terry, what does it say? I've lost it now. It's gone. I've lost the comment. I was going to read the comment out, and now I'm not because I can't find it. No, it's Jerry, bro. What's your problem? There must be someone in the comment section called Jerry that's winding people up. I'm not too sure. But guys, we're on 777 likes. We need to get to 1,250, and I will gift 20. That's 2 10s, 20 memberships to you, the audience. They picked up random by YouTube. I will gift them if we hit 1,250 likes. We need to get them up right about now, my people. Jess is a big fan of Love Island. I did hear that rumor, to be fair. If you want to see the Champions Leagues while in London, come to West London. Nothing to see in North London. Well, Liverpool, Spurs are in Champions League. See a Champions League. You mean the trophy? I hear you. Good little bit of banter there. Thiago Silva needed no adaptation. It's more about age and player profile. I think that's right. Listen, there's always less risk with buying from within the Premier League. And of course, some people come in. Bruno Fernandes, Thiago is a great example. They come into the Premier League. Mane came in with Southampton, was excellent straight away. A great example, Dimitri Payet. Some people come in and they just get it. The league suits them. There are other players that take a little bit of time to adapt. And sometimes it isn't even the league. Sometimes it's a new city, a new culture, a new speed of life. So you have to adjust to all these things. And I think that there is just a little bit less risk with a player of Raheem Sterling's age, as you say, in profile. And he's a fantastic signing. I'm just a little bit miffed as to, I don't know. I think Chelsea fans are just really downplaying it so much. It's unbelievable.
But keep melting down, guys. It's very enjoyable. I'm loving it. Keep melting down.
Some Chelsea fans online, now I want to get Chelsea fans' opinion on this that are watching, though. I do feel with some Chelsea fans online, it is like watching a kid that always gets their own way being told no. There is an element of there's a fraction of Chelsea fans where it's like they are like spoilt brats. It's like, no, I can imagine them in the corner of the supermarket, stamping their feet, arms folded and sulking because their mum said, no, you're not having a new toy today. You know, it's one of them ones, which we'll see. Tony Introvert, how you doing, my friend? Hope you're good. Havertz is still too inconsistent. Yeah, it's a big year for I think it's a big year for players like Kai Havertz. They've got to go to another level now. They've got to raise their game up to the next standard, I think.
Yeah. I didn't know you were like opening that up for me.
Yes, I am.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, he does. I think he's a good player, but like I said, and you spend like 70 million on a player, you would expect him to have maybe contributed more in the last 2 seasons. I know he had COVID quite a few times or something like that. He needed time. And I get that he scored that Champions League goal. But if you were to take that away, I think you'd be asking more questions of him, honestly, because he's a very, very good player. That's the only reason why I'm saying this. You know, if I thought he was crap, I would say get your expectations low. The expectations need to be a lot higher for him. He's no longer a kid, you know, so none of this young player nonsense. You know, he needs to step up because he is a very, very good player. I would imagine like Havertz, Sterling, and blank on the right-hand side would be a really good front three. I just don't know who that other person is. But yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of talent in Kai. I just think he needs, as you say, he just needs a little more. He needs something else alongside him. And again, maybe just a little bit too young to really be leading that line. And everyone develops and flourishes at different age. People always have this thing of like, you know, Ronaldo was an absolute don at 18. Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't. Cristiano Ronaldo didn't start to dominate games until his early 20s, towards his mid-20s. That's why he's like the level of goals he scores is crazy because he didn't start really scoring at that rate till about 22, 23. It took him time to develop. Michael Owen, injuries played a part, potent from 17 till about 23, and then a few injuries, and his career sort of faded away. You know, Cesc Fabregas at 16, 17 was dominating midfields. There are other midfield players like Michael Carrick that went on to be some of the most successful midfielders in the Prem who took a number of years to reach that level. There's no set and fast rule about when players reach the very top and when players get to a certain point. And I think time is often needed there. Ziad here says, as long as Tuchel gets the players he wants by the end of the summer and he's happy, then that's all that matters. No Chelsea fan will be allowed to complain. We're always going to get complaint there.
I would just say, like, just really quickly on this whole Tuchel needs to get all the players that he wants. there still needs to be a small barrier there for expert, kind of transfer on like advice on some of these players. As much as we probably want to believe that Klopp's talent ID is top, he's been told no quite a few times from the sporting director at Liverpool.
Mm.
He didn't even want Mane, but he ended up with Mane. So I do think that there needs to be a balance between Tuchel getting what he wants in profile, but the transfer team making sure that they still have some power in this, because all coaches don't have amazing talent ID. So I would say, yeah, Tuchel getting what he wants on paper look like a good thing, but it all depends on what it looks like when it's out there on the pitch. Does that
Which I
kind of
think
make sense?
of course it does, and I think that you need to get that happy medium between the two areas and stuff like that. Now, I wanted to speak about a deal that, of course, went through today. Malacia at Manchester United, and of course, another one that will happen by the end of the week. The one that Mr. Green Tick got absolutely spot on. Christian Eriksen to Manchester United is a deal that's going to happen. It looks like it's going to happen, as an example. How good do you think those two bits of business are for Manchester United?
I think Malacia is probably a good signing. I'm already kind of on record saying that I do think that he's gonna need a little bit of time. That's from what I've seen. And before people say, well, you've never seen him play, yeah, I have seen him play. So, I would say good young player, Lamptey-ish, in the way that he plays, might need a little bit of time. Good though, for like a longer term project. Eriksen, it's a good signing. I think I'm more impressed by the Frankie de Jong thing than the Christian Eriksen, because I think you have a lot of creative midfielders, Bruno Fernandes, Donny van de Beek. So you're just adding another one. He obviously would know how like the Ajax style of play, so that makes a huge difference. But I think they're both good signings. I would say that I'm more impressed by the Malacia one because that's more long term, and I don't really see Manchester United doing a lot of long term stuff. Not that I'm not saying that he can't make an impact now, but he's definitely not the finished article. So, yeah, I think Malacia is a really good signing. I would say Eriksen, good signing, but it's not something that, like, when Frankie de Jong goes through, I feel like that's the one that I'll be like, oh my gosh, even though I know it's going to happen anyway, you know?
Yeah, look, I think, again, transfer windows change when you add in the star signing around everything, if that makes sense. So you throw Frankie de Jong and Lisandro Martinez into these, and you look at those 4 deals, and that's really good business. I've seen some United fans calling it a 6 and a 7 out of 10. And I just think to myself, that's just a madness, in my opinion, because it's going to be a combined total of £109 million to bring them all in, which is fantastic. There's loads more that needs to happen, though. And I still think we need to look at an attacker, especially if Cristiano Ronaldo is said to go. There needs to be someone else that can create and or score goals.
What happened to Anthony?
That comes in. I think he wants to move. He's pushing for the move away. The problem is that Ajax have already sold a number of players, and a defensive player is very much on the agenda for Ten Hag. That's going to happen first. I kind of feel that getting Eriksen is a very big positive towards landing someone like Anthony. If Eriksen said no, then we would have been in a situation where we'd have to spend 35, 40 million pounds on another midfield player, which then would have dented the budget a lot more than, of course, Christian Eriksen, who's got 10 million pounds signing on fees. So he's cost 10 million quid. You have to have found 25, 30 million, 40 million extra for a player you're buying. So there's still money there to spend. We're going to sell players as well, I think, and this is what hasn't happened yet in the window. People are acting, I said earlier, like this window's coming to a close. Most of our clubs haven't really sold anybody yet. So what you're going to have happen soon is across our clubs, there's going to be multiple players, 2, 3, 4 at each club sold. This is then going to generate money. And then you'll start to see more moves happen because there'll be players at a club now that think they're going to be in the manager's plans. And then through preseason, they're told you're not. So they'll start looking for moves. The window's got a long way to go. There are going to be some more big signings that we ain't even thought about yet over the next couple of months. But onto those two players, look, Malacia, I haven't seen very much of him. I've been watching footage, mainly via Y-Scout, really. So it's a lot better than compilations. Technically very good. Can move forward, great athleticism. We know he's technically gifted on the ball. Most Dutch players that come through their academies are. He was a player that they were going to buy at Ajax this year. So I always say, like, I want my club to buy the next top right back before he becomes the next top left back, before he becomes the next top player. Maybe this is it. But I'm going to remain very reserved in my opinion on him because I haven't seen him play in matches. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert. That would be stupid. Any football fan that's doing that, you're a mug. Christian Eriksen, on the other hand, I think he's one of the most shrewdest pieces of business this year. I think could turn out to be one of the best signings that any club makes this summer, pound for pound. And I'm not talking about being as good as a Haaland or something along those lines, but I'm talking pound for pound. And it's really funny. I even saw Man United fans have tweeted me saying net spend is real, because they like to be negative about Man United, saying, well, it wasn't a free transfer if we paid a £10 million signing on fee. That's what I mean by the fungus fans. It's like, hang on a minute. So you say net spend is real, but you're not calling this a free transfer. Make your mind up. It can't be a free transfer. And net spend can't be real and this not be a free transfer. It's impossible. But either way, I don't care about that. Pound for pound, this will be one of the best signings of the season. He's such a talented player. And I think that he's got the ability to really work himself into this first team, put proper pressure on Bruno Fernandes. And I think that Ten Hag has got the mindset and the attitude as a person to drop the right players at the right times and play the individuals that are going to get the best out of the team. And that's what I want to see from my manager. These are these little wins I want to see in year one from my manager. So I think from my point of view, I'm really impressed with them. It's just a start, though. We need to move on now. And because we end up with, if we get Martinez and that's it with this window, it's an awful window. We need a lot more than these guys. But so far, so good. Happy that we've got a bit of business over the line. Stockton here says, when United say they plan to sign 5 players, doesn't it include a backup goalkeeper? The aim is 4 to 5 outfield players. The backup goalkeeper thing, again, I wouldn't do a video on that. I don't really care. No one cares about signing backup goalkeepers. It's a weird thing to celebrate. I know that Arsenal kind of did with the Matt Turner thing, but Matt Turner's a little bit of a name in America, right? Like he's a bit of a player, so I kind of get the attention. But the guy we were linked with, is it Nottingham Forest? I ain't heard of him. I don't care.
Your guy was not.
No, exactly.
He's awful.
Yeah, I don't even know who he was. I'd rather Tom Heaton go and goal as a backup.
But we had already signed Matt Turner a long time ago, so we already kind of knew about it.
I get that. I do get that. There was another super chat that came in here that said, Sterling's class. Look forward to seeing him at the bridge. Is from Nick. Thank you very much for that, Nick.
There you go.
Hello, Terry and Jess. Curious what other sports you guys watch seriously other than football. Also, thoughts on PSG circus Poch and his future. I told everyone he was sacked in February. I need my apologies now. It was always going to happen. They were just simply waiting to find a replacement. Imagine that. He's literally been sitting in a job for 5 months knowing he's getting sacked. 5 months! But he's getting paid a lot of money, so I suppose he didn't care. What other sports do you watch, Joe?
Nothing. I don't take anything else very serious. I mean, I can sit in front of the TV and watch most sports and be in general, like interested in it. But maybe basketball. But other than that, like I really spend my time watching football and that's it. And on the PSG circus, I think they obviously set a very dangerous precedent by allowing a player to basically run the club. Mbappe and his father are now making all the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, they have hired a very good sporting director who I think will mitigate some of the maybe damage that can be done. But ultimately, like, I just look at this like, what is this going to be moving forward? Now players are going to be looking for ownership, options and stuff like that in their clubs. It's going to be insane. But the coaching option that they chose in Gaultier is very good and different than something that I thought that they would do. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it most certainly is. Some breaking news here. Andreas Pereira decided to join Fulham. Man United are going to get £9 million transfer fee, an additional 3 million in add-ons. So that's a little dent towards. I remember you laughing when I said we'd raise between 50 and 80 million. So that's another little 10 million. Well,
You haven't gotten there yet, so.
Oh, we'll get there. Don't worry. Like there's Dean Henderson money. That was a loan fee. That's just about 15 so far.
Oh, loan fee.
That's still transfer fee.
Okay.
It is. If he pays it, it's there. We'll raise the money. I didn't even, in fairness, when I saw that we were selling Pereira, I forgot he played for us and forgot he had a contract. So I was like, that's a touch. Like it's 9 million quid in. So yeah, decent little bit of business there for Man United and breaking news. And that's what I mean. This is what will happen with clubs. All these little sales will start coming in. And then clubs will go. I mean, Spurs have just done their deal. I think it's already at Here We Go. Bergwijn, 30 million euros. To Ajax. I mean, a lot of Man United fans think Ajax, once they sign Bergwijn, that will be Anthony that will then be available. It's hard to tell because they've had so many players leave. We don't really know their plans overall, but it'll be intriguing to see what kind of happens there. Viewers, as we go into the last few moments, we're around about 330 likes short of hitting the thing for the free membership. So we need to get to 1250 on these big feature length shows that we do. So we have to get to 1250 if you want the free membership. So you need to get your fellow viewers to make sure they're smashing it for us to put that out there. So there we go. But I appreciate you coming on. They weren't feeling particularly very well today at all, so I do appreciate it. And viewers and my super chatters and our members, always thankful. Back tomorrow with more content for you. Ben Jacobs on the show tomorrow afternoon to round up a lot of what's going on in the market. Can't wait to talk to him about Christian Eriksen. I can't wait. But until next time, people, look after yourselves. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again soon.